Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd, and one of my subscribers awared me of something which I found very funny, so I want to show it. He sent me a link to the original script of the 2009 Star Trek movie, which was written by Roberto Orci and Alex Kurtzman, and of course directed by J.J. Abrams. And in the past I used to blame everything only on JJ, and I do think he's responsible, but the writers are probably even more responsible now that I think about it. And Roberto Orci at least knew about Star Trek. He's allegedly a big fan of Star Trek, and so that can explain why there were so many good references to the old Star Trek franchise in this movie. That's why I didn't totally hate this movie. I do like a lot of things in the movie, but it also has a whole bunch of stupidity, so that probably came from the other writer. But anyway, what I actually want to show you today is the amount of cursing there is in this script, which is not in the actual movie, but I find it really strange and funny how is it so much in the script itself. Like, why would someone even write a script with all these words in them? I guess if you really want to emphasize something, you would write it like this, but he does that all the time, and so it becomes kind of like a comma, basically. So what's the point to even write these words if it's not in the actual movie? And I think this is really telling because this explains Star Trek Picard. Basically, he did what he always wanted to do, apparently. He apparently really loves all these curse words and he loves to use this kind of language. And maybe this explains Star Trek Picard, in which everybody are cursing all the time. And so let's take a look at the script of the 2009 Star Trek movie and let me check how many times the word fuck appears in the script. So this is early in the movie. The captain of the Kelvin says all remaining power to forward shields, prepare the shuttles, and he stops. They all do. A fucking face is now on their view screen. A Romulan face. The Romulan asks them what is the current star date, and then, the fuck? Star date? You can see that he really wanted to put these words into the movie, but he didn't. But the script still has all these words, but not as the dialogue, so what's the point of even writing that? Then later in the Kelvin medical bay, move fast around Winona. He writes move fast, so he wants the camera to spin all over the place. So this really explains everything. So move fast around Winona. In fucking labor now. Being transferred onto a wheelchair by the doctor and nurse. Who writes like that? I mean, isn't this very disrespectful toward the pregnant woman? She's in fucking labor. And why write that in the script? We arrive at Nero, who, with a small specks of human blood on his face, just stares at the fucking hologram of Spock. He's obsessed. So human blood on his face, so all kinds of gory stuff, just like in the new Star Trek Discovery and the Picard show. A fucking hologram of Spock. A fucking Klingon vessel. Later in Iowa, the Corvette speeds, while inside the car, Jim turns on the updated, modified radio. Scans stations, momentarily losing control of the car, but he's back on track as he finds a hard rock song, and he's starting to fucking love it. Piloting something this fast feels good, but with the speed he's driving, the roof rips right off the fucking car. This is a deleted scene. You can actually find this one when the Klingons interrogate Nero because he was captured by the Klingons and was in their prison, which at least explains what he was doing for 25 years, because in the actual movie, in the theatrical version, he just apparently just waits for 25 years and doesn't do anything, doesn't warn his people, doesn't give them his technology. He just waits for Spock to arrive for 25 fucking years. This is the place where it fits because it's so outrageous. So for 25 fucking years, Nero was waiting. So at least the deleted scene explains he wasn't just waiting, he was in prison with the Klingons and they were interrogating him, and for some reason the Klingons didn't do anything with his ship, which is maybe even stupid there. But anyway, let's read the script. Nero's face betrays nothing. No fear, no doubt. Cold as fucking ice. The interrogator stares at a page in the book, a drawing of Spock. Anyway, this is later in the movie when Spock faces those Vulcans who want to accept him to the Vulcan Science Academy. And this is Spock's dialogue. The only emotion I wish to convey is gratitude. Thank you, ministers, for your consideration. A contained fuck you. Live long and prosper. This is the only time in the script where this actually fits because it explains the attitude that the actor should be having while saying the polite dialogue. And that's actually a scene I liked in the movie. This is actually a moment which was funny and there was a build up to it and it fits the situation, it was logical, so I actually like that scene. And this is the only time in this whole script where the fuck you in brackets actually fits and explains something to the director and the actor of how they should play this. And so this is the only example that I actually like. Anyway, later in the academy, Spock says, Cadet Kirk, it is obvious you somehow managed to install and activate a subroutine in the programming code, thereby changing the conditions of the test. And the script says, we happen to find Galia. I think that was the green chick who helped him do it. And she's in the crowd, fucking pissed. This wasn't in the actual movie, but again, this is an example that makes sense to write it this way in the script so that the actor and the director can know how to film it and so on. So this is something that wasn't actually in the movie, because in the original script he actually slept with that green woman in order to get her to cheat the test for him. So he basically abused her in that way. It's a good thing they removed that bit from the movie. Anyway, then Kirk confronts Spock, and Spock says, as a Vulcan, I require no additional training to control my narcissism when making command decisions. He's basically insulting Kirk, and the script says, no, he didn't. Kirk's hit guys for a lot less. The crowd all but oohs, but Kirk ain't fucking done yet. On Spock, he raises that eyebrow, and Kirk sees, no matter how subtly, that he has fucking made contact, smelling blood. Well, looks like Kirk just hit him in his fucking weak spot, and before this love fest can continue, love fest? A red shirt bursts into the hall. Everyone's on their feet, moving quickly. Kirk suddenly irrelevant. Pike passes by him. All fucking business. But before he goes, cheating isn't winning. And as that settles on Kirk, McCoy now joins him. You know, this is actually a good line. Like, there are some good stuff in it. So I'm not, I don't think this entire movie was bad. It did have some good moments, but also so many stupid moments. Anyway, let's keep reading. Here's that scene with Sulu being at the helm, and Pike asks him, and you are a pilot, right? And the script says he's fucking with him. Later in the Enterprise corridor, Kirk and Sulu share a holy fucking shit look. Okay. They appreciate the pure balls of that. Bravery washes over them. They'd fucking die for their captain, who now turns to Kirk and Sulu. But he's not their captain. I mean, Kirk is still the cadet. He didn't finish the academy. Sulu just happened to be on the ship because that other officer got lung worms or something. And so Sulu was just there by accident. It's the first time he meets Pike. And yet both of them are ready to fucking die for him. Oh my god. You know, even reading the script, it all feels rushed. Like, the movie was very rushed, but you can kind of forgive that. Maybe they just edited it that way for pacing. But no, it was in the script. You can see that everything happens so quickly. So immediately they're the best friends ever and so on. So this is stupid. Red shirt engineer. I am pumped to kick some Romulan ass. No joke. Bring it on. Kirk nods at him. Subtext. What a fucking sack. He looks to Sulu. What kind of combat training you'd have? Sulu says fencing. You know, this was a funny moment. So I would give it to Kurtzman or Orky, whoever wrote some parts of this movie I did actually like. It's the stupid stuff I don't like. Spock and Uhura meet eyes. This is fucking insane. And the man's enthusiastic yelling takes us to Vulcan's atmosphere. Olson screams, woo! And his chute billows out, opens too late. Olson's fucking body slams into the edge of the circular drill. His fucking body. Jumping and tackling the second guard, and the shit is on. Our Starfleet heroes battling these Romulans to the death, and Sulu kicks off an antenna piece and uses it as a saber. Fucking swashbuckling at 10,000 feet. You know, this actually might have been better than what we got in the movie, because he pulled out some kind of mechanical sword, which basically like a lightsaber but mechanical, and he was fighting him. And yet in the script apparently he was meant to use an antenna to do that, so I don't know, maybe it would have been a bit too convenient that he happens to find what he's good at. So maybe bringing a sword makes more sense, but still kind of interesting. I have a lot of insights to see all the original intentions, the original ideas, so this is interesting. Later when Kirk catches the falling Sulu, Kirk says, pull my chute, and Sulu does, it opens, but holy fuck, the double weight rips it, it snaps away from them. Later, Nero says, a feeling that every surviving Vulcan now shares. Pike just looks at him, sees how fucking far gone he is. This is another example of something that maybe should be in the script to make it clear, but the actors and directors should make it clear in the movie as well, and it wasn't in this scene when Pike realizes that it's pointless to debate with Nero because he's crazy, but I always felt that scene that Pike kind of gave up too easily, just stopped arguing with him when why not try, like why not give it your best just in case you might succeed, why you gave up so quickly to try to convince him not to do it, why not say, you know, there are children on Earth, why do you want to kill our children, or why not simply warn your planet to save your family in the future, and all kinds of things he could have said or tried to say, and he just gave up in the movie. And so the script at least kind of explains that. It shows that Pike basically realized that Nero is nuts and there's no point, and so he sees how fucking gone he is. Later, this is the scene when Kirk was marooned on the planet and he tells the computer, bite me, that's that. So it's a good thing they cut out this one, because, you know, this kind of stuff is childish. Like, this is supposed to be an officer in Starfleet, the best of humanity, and he's behaving kind of like a bully, like a child. They're all cursing each other, so I'm glad they cut it out. I wish they would have cut out all that kind of stuff from the Picard show, because it really kind of took me out of every scene in which such dialogue was introduced, because it's childish. Like, adult people in professional settings wouldn't be talking like this. At least here it's with a computer, so he tells the computer to bite me, and he gets to the surface, looks out, and he's in the middle of fucking nowhere. And then Kirk says, son of a bitch, bitch, there's nothing here, you neck-pinching motherfucker, and it cuts out. So Kirk was going to curse a lot more in the actual movie, according to the script, and they toned it down when they filmed it or when they edited it. So this really shows me how much Kurtzman always wanted to have that kind of stuff, and that explains what happened to Star Trek Picard. Anyway, this is the part with the monster. The fucking thing charges him. Kirk runs, terrified, and it's gonna eat him alive. Kirk holds ass as the thing comes after him. The creature reaches out and fucking grabs him, pulls him toward the disgusting wet, teethy mouth. Kirk tries to hold on to anything he can but his fucking lunch. And here I think it was totally pointless to insert all these curse words, because it doesn't give any information that wouldn't otherwise be obvious to the actors or the director, and so what's the point? And later the script says, a fucking blizzard. Again, pointless. And this scene is when they beam back to the Enterprise and Scotty gets trapped inside that glass tube. And Kirk turns and looks, follows the length of the tube, seeing where it's heading, to a giant water turbine, essentially a massive fucking blender. Again, totally pointless. I mean, what's the special effects guys who designed that turbine? They would design it differently because the script said a fucking blender, so it would change the way they would design it otherwise. If it just said a massive blender, a giant blender, no, it's a fucking blender. So it totally changes how you would design it. So this is totally pointless, a waste of space on the script. Later, Spock and Kirk fight. Wham! Spock has just hit Kirk, and Kirk goes to hit back, but Spock fucking delivers a series of powerful blows. Security stand back as the captain attacks, and Spock is now fucking choking Kirk. He slams Kirk against the wall. Spock's choking the life out of him. You know, this sounds like such bad fan fiction, but at least it was funny. I remember it was very entertaining to see all these bizarre scenes, because it was simply like a parody. It was fun, and so that's why I have mixed feelings on all of this. So anyway, Kirk takes over. Camera on McCoy, the crew confused. Sulu just fucking points at Kirk and they all realize, holy shit, Pike made Kirk the first officer before he left. McCoy is like, what? So Kirk becomes captain of the Enterprise while he's still a cadet who was about to get kicked out. And by the way, that whole thing with Kirk cheating and all of that, which was from the original canon, but they made it out into a joke, and so Kirk was just being arrogant, and he was eating an apple, and he didn't take it seriously, and he just cheated, and he was about to get kicked out. Like, I would have wanted to see the original versions of those events. I would have liked to see how he managed not to get kicked out from the academy, and how he would explain himself if there wasn't suddenly a war with the Romulans and all of that, which basically saved him in this movie. But how did that play in the original timeline? Like, I would have wanted to see those events dealt in a serious way and not all like slapstick, oh, the Romans just attacked and so that's suddenly I'm captain and everybody forget about what happened in the academy. And so this is kind of very lazy way the movie dealt with all these issues. They wanted to have that in the movie and that was great, but they didn't really deal with it. They just quickly moved past it. Anyway, let's look at the rest of the script. There is this scene with the Romulans. Aiel is the first officer of Nero. I actually like this part of the script. It's better than in the actual movie because I remember when watching that movie, I kept thinking, how come none of the other Romulans have any brains either? How come none of them object to Nero's crazy plan to destroy all the Federation planets when they can simply return to Romulus and give them the advanced technology and all of that? And also, morally speaking, it was always nice in Star Trek to show that not all the villains are pure evil, that some of them might be conflicted, that some of the henchmen of the evil villain might not be as evil as him. And so I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see this part of the script, in which Nero's second-in-command objects to his decisions, and then Nero says, I understand, but you are wrong. And just as Aiel realizes he's fucked, Nero somehow activates the staff in a way we have not seen, and the blades appear on the other end. The end now facing Aiel, and just as Aiel's eyes go wide, Nero thrusts the blades into him, and he falls to the floor dead. Nero's hard face turns to the rest of the crew. We will return to Romulans when the Federation lies in ruins, and not a moment before, when those who watched our people burn at last understand our pain. Yeah, except it's not the same people, it's like a century before. But at least this part of the script shows that not all the Romulans are as stupid as Nero, so I kind of like this part. I wish it was in the movie. Then the camera is on the faces of the men submitting to his will, our music building, and then his eyes on Earth like a fucking lion eyes. Ambassador Spock's ship has been stolen and is heading out of the solar system. Off Nero's fucking mega rage. Kirk says, hail them now. Nero appears on screen from the Narada bridge. The Narada's on its last legs. A bit before Nero turns, realizing Kirk's fucking grinning at him from the screen. So anyway, you get the picture of this kind of writing. It seems to me kind of juvenile, childish, or maybe trying to be edgy and cool and all that kind of stuff. And that's one of the problems in the new Picard show. They kept cursing all the time, they kept talking in that way. Everybody are hostile toward each other for no reason, just because it's cool, just because it's more exciting this way. And it's part of the reason that it's kind of stupid. That makes all of this not really Star Trek, which used to be a show for the whole family, and it used to be educational, it used to be inspirational, showing the best of humanity, what humanity should be, how people should behave. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about for today. So this is kind of an example of the kind of writers we have right now making Star Trek. So let me know what you think in the comments below and we can discuss it, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.